Well, hello everybody. It's Christine coming to you from the Cards by Christine studio here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And we are going to be making a Christmas card tonight. It is about 3 weeks until Christmas is actually already over, so it's time we do another Christmas card. And this card is featuring the Merry Christmas to All stamp set. And it's actually not even using the framelits that come with the set. It's going to be using the ovals, the scallop oval and a regular oval. So this set is actually going to be retiring. The holiday catalog goes through like January 2nd or so. It is a while supplies last type of deal. So if you enjoy this card and you're really liking it, I would go ahead and get it. I appreciate any sales if you don't have a current Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you don't, just go to my website, which you can find in the description, and let's go ahead and make a card. All right, so let's get this out of the way because I've got all my blocks and everything lined up here for you to see. All right, so what this card does, it uses this corrugated embossing folder. Super, super cool. If you, back in the day, I've been stamping now for 17 years, I used to have one of those paper crimpers that you'd have to roll through a wheel. And so this actually takes that whole wheel away, that wheel aspect. So it's, I don't know if you can see it on here very well, but it is the corrugated. Yeah, you can see that. It makes it really, really textured. We're pulling in some of the designer series paper from the Festive Farmhouse suite. We're pulling in a galvanized button here from the Festive Farmhouse suite, some burlap, some of the cotton baker's twine, and then what else do we have here? Cherry cobbler and old olive are the colors that we're going to be using. So, all right, we can go ahead and set that off to the side, and we've got our card base. Our card base is a traditional half sheet of paper, which is 8.5 by 5.5. I have it scored, and you can see I already had it folded. And we have here the piece of cherry cobbler, and this is a traditional mat that takes off 1/8 of an inch. Actually, it's not a traditional mat. I take that back. So if you look at this, let's see what we got here. We've got it traditional at this side, so this is 5 1/4, but this is a little bit wider than 4 inches. When you use the corrugated embossing folder, it puts so much texture into the paper that it actually shrinks it a hair. So I have this probably at like 4 inches and like a 1/16 to 1/8. All right, so it's a little bit longer than normal, and what happens is it shrinks. Okay, so what we can do is go ahead, I'm going to pull the Big Shot in. Okay, so bring in the Big Shot, and because this is one of the dynamic impressions embossing folder, it's really thick. You can see that it's super thick. Because of that, you're only going to use one plate here. Okay, and then the other thing is, because you're using this corrugated folder, we have found in class that it's super important to spritz this with some water. The water will help soften the paper and allow it to flex to get that waves in it. So I'm not going to try to spray everything here, but just going to go like, I don't know if you can see this, but like a couple spritzes there. 1, 2. So I do with this one a little bit more. And if you want to look at the card here, the waves are going across ways, so you want to make sure you put that in there the right way. Same concept though, you want to put your spine in first to the machine. And then we have found that you want to put your plate over the top. You can sometimes put the plate underneath, but in this instance, it is better for the paper to put the plate over the top of the embossing folder. Okay, and I'm trying to be gentle with my rolling so that it doesn't shake the phone, the whole stand. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna run that, put the Big Shot away. All right, now when you take that out of here, you have your impressed paper here. You want to be very careful when you put it in to make sure you get it as straight as possible. It's very possible that when I put it in, I didn't have it quite straight, but it's straight enough for this. So you can move that off to the side. And now because of this corrugated folder, I don't like to use like a tape like mono adhesive. It doesn't stick very well. I would definitely use my Tombow liquid purpose, what is it? Liquid glue, multi-purpose. And I want to get across some of these ridges so that they will adhere to your card base. So glue it good like that. Okay, and that can go on here. Now you can see how much that shrunk to what it was beforehand. There's a lot more gap here and a lot more gap at the top. So just know that the side, like the ridges going this way, you want it shorter on this side. Now if you would have had it going like this, the ripples that way, then you would have had that side shorter. Okay, so then you have a piece of burlap. This is probably about 5.5 inches, and this is where I'm going to pull my tear and tape in. I keep that stored in the bag or in a similar bag so that it doesn't get all full of little dust particles and glitter when it's in my toolbox. So what I'm going to do is grab a chunk of this and put it right down in the middle, more or less in the middle. And there's a waxy paper on there. It's great if you have nails. Just go ahead and pick that waxy paper off. And then you're going to put your burlap right in the middle, like so. Now, I would actually take my scissors at this point and trim that. So I have my ribbon scissors, I have a paper snips, and I have a glue snips. They're called snips in Stampin' Up! World. In my world, they're scissors. But I have one for each. And that is because when you cut with ribbon, you want to make sure you use a super, super sharp scissors. So I don't use anything else for this scissors except for ribbon, so it stays as sharp as possible. And then the paper one I use for snipping paper, and the other one for snipping glue dots or dimensionals. All right, so let's set that off to the side. All right, so now we got our base started here. Now there's this piece of designer series paper. If you like that side, you could do that as well. Some people in class like that. I wouldn't do that because it will compete with the white. I don't like to mix white and vanillas together. So in this case, I will go ahead and glue this as well with my liquid glue. And I'm going to just draw a line all the way around the outside like that. Okay, and that's going to go, let's make sure I got that right. It's going to go right in the middle here. I'm just centering it left to right, top to bottom. And you can see I did when I cut my burlap, I cut it at an angle this way and this way. On this card, I cut it that way and that way. It doesn't matter. Whatever your preference is or how you end up cutting it, I just would cut them the same angle instead of doing one this way and one that way. That might look kittywampus. So, all right. So I'm going to make sure that's glued really good. So now we're going to do a little bit of stamping. So let's set that off to the side. We're going to stamp May the Beauty of the Season Fill Your Heart with Joy. And that is part of this set. Let's see where my stamp set is. Right here. So we are going to pull that stamp out. That's shrunk big time. We're going to use this little swirl. We're going to use the Christmas, and we're going to use the Merry. Okay. So I do have my piercing mat. So if you don't have a piercing mat, I highly recommend you get one. They're great. I just put a piece of paper over the top of it. They're great for, because the photopolymer stamps don't have foam on them, then it gives a little bit extra cushion. So I'm going to grab a piece of white here. This is Whisper White. And I wanted to show you guys something. This is the Mossy Meadow ink. And we've been using that a lot in class, and it looked pretty good to me actually, but if it didn't look good, I was going to re-ink it. Let's see about the Cherry Cobbler. Yes, I'm going to show you how to re-ink an ink pad. So, but first we're going to stamp this in the Mossy Meadow. This is one of the foam pads. It's super juicy, so you're just going to blot it on there. You're not going to push really hard, just like tap, tap, tap. Okay, and then I'm just going to find the center of my Whisper White piece. And I'm going to be cutting that out with the oval, so it doesn't matter where exactly we stamp on here, just so that we get it on here. Okay, so nice. All right, I like that a lot. I don't know if you guys know it, but Stampin' Up! Has something called Simply Chamois, and it's a piece of sham. I think that's what it's called, chamois. People use them for cleaning their cars. So this is what you can use instead of baby wipes. So when you use a baby wipe, if it's dry a little bit, sometimes you get little white filaments or particles on your stamps, and then they get into your ink pad. So this will get dirty, 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 and all you do is you run it underneath the sink, and some ink will come out, but most of the color will stay in there, but it doesn't seep into your other inks or your other stamps when you clean it. It'll just stay on there. Okay, so that's clean. Let's move that off to the side here. Where do we have our red piece? Because we're going to stamp our inside. All right, so our inside looks like this. It says Merry Christmas, and then it's got the little squirrely. So I'm going to go ahead and do, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take this and wipe this off a little bit just to make sure there's no glitter. I noticed that when we stamp and we use glitter on cards, the glitter ends up in the ink pads, and sometimes it's because they're stuck on the stamp themselves. So, okay, same thing here. You're just going to blot on there, tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to put the Christmas kind of in the center, left to right, and then about 1.5 inches or so down from the top. Now, if you don't like to write in your cards a lot, then you can go ahead and stamp further down. But I like to have a little room for a sentiment here, so I stamp closer to the top third here. Okay, I'm going to clean off the Merry as well before I go in there. Make sure there's no glitter on there. I'm going to get the Merry, ink that up. I'm going to tuck it right above the T here. And see if I get that straight. Yay, perfect. Okay, so then when you're all done with that, you can just wipe it off with your chamois. And then we're going to clean this Merry Christmas. See how it just gets the blocks, the ink, the stamps really clean. You can clean your blocks with it as well. The only thing is if you get it on your fingers, it really doesn't come off your fingers so easy. So, okay, we're done with the Mossy Meadow. So we're going to do the cherry cobbler. So let me just set this off to the side for right now and open up my cherry cobbler. Okay, now that we got the cherry cobbler open, if you have a re-inker, you want to always double check the name of it. And so cherry cobbler to cherry cobbler. I recently re-inked a pad. I think I did a Sahara stand with crumb cake accidentally. Not the biggest issue in the world, but I still had to like kind of try to get as much of it out as I could and re-ink it with Sahara sand. Otherwise I was going to have a couple, an extra crumb cake pad. So I'm just going back and forth with the re-inker. It helps if you lock that in place. But if you would go to use that right now and stamp with it, you'd get little lines. So what you want to do is take a spoon and you're just going to massage it back and forth. And what that does is it spreads the ink out, so it's no longer in those streaky lines. Now, if you are using your ink pad and you notice that it's getting dry, generally you go right to the middle of the ink pad to get ink, and that dries out the fastest first. And so I tend to go to the outside then, and eventually that will get used up. So buying the re-inkers it's an investment in your ink pad. So I could have this, so I've been stamping for 17 years, and if I would have I'd never bought the re-inkers when I first started stamping. I thought they were, honestly, I thought, well, they're the waste of money. I have a good ink pad. Well, if I would have the re-inker, I could be re-inking my ink pad because it dries out, and I would have an investment in those ink pads. So I got smart about 5 years ago, and I started buying all the re-inkers. So what you're going to do is just take some water to your spoon. This is just a kitchen spoon that I eat cereal with. All right. And just wipe that off, and then you're good. I would wash it with soap and water later on, but so now we have our cherry cobbler ink ready to go, and we've got our little swirly Jane here, and we're just going to put that kind of tucked out of this corner here. So I always like to decorate the inside of the envelope with something besides just words to give it a little poof. So that's what I do. Generally, I try to put stuff in the bottom corners, but in this case, this swirl looked perfect here. So stamp off, and then you can go to your chamois and clean that stamp. All right, so let's go ahead and shut up our ink, get that out of the way. Now, I store my Simply chamois in just a Ziploc bag. It seals shut. And if you wanted to, you could spray it with some of the Stampin' Mist that Stampin' Up! Has. You would just spray that. It would get wet, and then you could use that to clean your stamp. Okay, so zipper that shut good. All right, now that we've got our stamping done, this piece is done. We can grab our liquid glue. I generally, if you know me by now, I put a little bit around the edge. Less is best with this liquid glue. It's a really nice craft glue. It's super sticky and tacky. Some people don't like that. They manage to get it all over their fingers, and then it gets all over the bottle, and then it's a sticky, hot sticky mess, I guess you could say. As long as you don't get it where you don't want it, it's generally okay, and I have a way of keeping it where it needs to go. So, all right. So we have here the May the Beauty. We need to cut this piece out with our oval here. And you're going to laugh at me, but I just did have a piece of red paper here. Oh my gosh! This is funny. You guys are going to laugh at me. Okay, so in my classes, I've been trying to teach people how to conserve paper. Okay, so this bottom piece was what we were supposed to use to cut our scallop out. But because I went ahead and I was so happy to use the corrugated embossing folder, I completely forgot that I was supposed to cut that first. So you guys are going to laugh at me. If you're in my classes and you're local and you're watching this, you're going to laugh because everybody at some point does this, and then I run upstairs and get everybody, get that person a new piece of paper. So I kept looking for it. Where is it? Where is it? So, all right, now that I know what happened to my paper, we can go ahead and cut this out. So we're going to pull in the Big Shot again. This time we're going to have our cutting plates on here. And because it's big enough, there's room here for both of these to go on here. Scallop anywhere in the middle is fine because it's going to get covered up. This guy, when you do this, you just want to make sure the cutting part is facing down. And this guy, you just want to eyeball him to make sure that it's centered good, like that. Because I have the magnetic platform on the bottom, it's going to help to keep my framelets sticking where they are. I'm going to put my top sheet on here. Now, because these are framelets and they're just doing a cutout, one pass on the Big Shot is sufficient. So I'm going to try to go slow so it doesn't wiggle on you. Okay, there we go. If you were cutting out a more intricate die, you would probably want to do a few passes on it. We call that a round trip. When you go forwards and backwards, that's a complete round trip. Okay, let me move this out of the way and bring this back. So now, you can laugh with me. This is what I would have then run through the embossing folder, because it wouldn't have mattered because it gets covered up anyways. So that's a little paper saving trick that I was supposed to show you, but my other card that I have here for standby in case I mess something up, we'll get that done to it. So, all right, let's move that out of the way. So we've got our saying, which can get glued onto the piece of cherry cobbler, scalloped oval piece. And it's okay if it's upside down. I'm not looking at the saying right now. All I'm doing is looking at my edging to make sure that the same amount of red is showing. Right now, I do have that popped up with dimensionals. So I love, these are paper pumpkin dimensionals, but I love Stampin' Up's little mini dimensionals. I'm a conservative type of stamper, so I used to take their regular size dimensionals and cut them in half. So because they came out with these little ones, I don't have to cut them in half anymore. So if you've got nails, go ahead and pick that off. Sometimes a pokey tool helps with the picking that paper off. All right, so that's just going to get placed right in the center of our card, like so. And then we're going to pull in a galvanized button, and I've got the Cherry Cobbler Festive Farmhouse. I believe this is in the Festive Farmhouse section of the catalog. This is like a soft, cottony baker's twine. And I have a brand new bow maker that my friend Kathy Miller just gave me. She is a doll. And we're going to go ahead and make a baby bow. So if you see here, I got a teeny tiny little guy here. So if you have a bow maker and you have never used it, here's your opportunity to learn. If you don't have a bow maker and you'd like one, contact me and I can hook you up. They're only $5 plus shipping. So to do a bow, I'm right-handed, so I generally grab the loose end with my right hand and I put that underneath, and so they're crossed like this. Then I bring it from underneath and I loop it over the top, and then it comes down underneath and bring it to the front again. And then you're going to take and cross them again and make a bow. Now as you have the bow, I like let go of it there, and then I grab my ends, bring it down to the base of the nails, and I pull tight. And as I'm pulling tight, I pull my tails downward, and that helps the bow to get formed properly. So I will pull in my ribbon scissors here and trim that off, and I always put a little piece of tape to like hold this so it doesn't all come unraveled on me. And you just take your nails out. Now these bow makers that Kathy Miller has, oh my gosh, they even store your nails. That smart man, whoever made this, he is awesome. So they store your nails. My other one that I have to put the nails in a plastic bag. So I'm very excited to use this. Thank you, Kathy Miller. I love you. So you have your bow here, and how do we attach it? I attach all of this with little snot dots or glue dots. Now I just used up my last little box of them, but thankfully I get Paper Pumpkin, and Paper Pumpkin has usually some glue dots in there. And if you ask my customer Bonnie, she will tell you she's not a fan of these, but they come in perfectly fine in a pinch. So I don't want to run over to the other room and get my box of dimensionals, a new one. So just use your Paper Pumpkin glue dots, use Stampin' Up glue dots, I would just definitely use a stickier glue like this. I bet tear tape here would even work too if you put a little dot of it. So what I'm doing is putting the glue dots on the button here. I'm actually going to do 3 of them. Let's grab one more, and this one's going to go in the middle. So I've got 3 glue dots on here to make this super sticky. And I don't know if you can really see it, but I have the holes of the button going like left, right like that, just like so. And then we're going to put a glue dot. Now, I look at this, I'm like, which side looks better? Well, to me, this side looks worse. So that's the side I'm going to stick down here. Let's see if he comes off. See, this is why Bonnie doesn't like these, because you have to pick that off of there. Where the roll of glue dots that you get from Stampin' Up, they come on a roll, and you can just put this right onto it. So, but I didn't want to, I saved some steps, and I didn't go get mine. So, all right, look what we got here. I love it, it's so pretty. Okay, very festive. So we're gonna snip our little ends off here of our bow to make them a little shorty. And I think that's it, voila. Okay, if you are a Stella fan, the Wink of Stella, you can definitely go ahead and Stella the red scalloped edge of that, and that will make that pop. Some people even Stella, so Stella is a glitter pen. If you don't have it, every girl needs a little Stella in her life. You could even Stella your bow with the glitter pen and it would make that pop really nicely. You could even Stella your burlap here and put a little glitz. So what we like about the Stella pen is it's controlled glitter. So it doesn't go all over the place. And speaking of controlled glitter, for those of you who haven't bought glimmer paper from Stampin' Up! For a while, they just changed the formula and, well, not just, it's probably been a while and I just got some right now, but it doesn't flake off and it doesn't fall all over and it's thinner and it's phenomenal and it looks awesome. So, all right, guys and gals, that's what I got for you today. I hope you really enjoyed my Christmas card that we made together featuring the Merry Christmas to All stamp set. We didn't pull in the framelits for it, but there are some big words that says Christmas and holidays, and there's a Merry there. So again, if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would truly appreciate your support in your business. I love doing this, and by doing these videos, it allows me to share my craftiness and creative with you, and your orders help that. So if you don't have a demonstrator, please look in the comments below, and you can find some information about all the materials that we use to make this card, as well as how to order your products. So right now, the year-end clearance is going on, and so they marked down some of the products in the holiday catalog to up to 40% off. So it's a great time to go do some Christmas shopping. There's actually some card boxes and metal tins, and I just bought 6 of them actually to give out Christmas presents for my friends. I'm going to do cards inside those boxes. So yay. All right. Well, I will talk to you later, or I'll catch you next week when I do my next one. Thanks so much. Bye.